This is Work From Home, the podcast that helps you stay productive, connected, and sane while working remotely. I'm Harry, and today is the second part of my conversation with two of my colleagues, Daniel, who's based in Alabama, and Kyle, who's based in the Philippines. So we really couldn't be much further apart between the three of us, working between very different time zones, which brings a whole bunch of challenges, which I think more and more of us are kind of running into in our day-to-day life. It might not be that we're spread out quite as far across the globe, but we're definitely spread out across the country or the city or wherever it is. And so I think, some of those lessons that we can kind of bring in terms of how we're interacting and collaborating on a daily basis are really interesting. And today, I wanted to ask both Daniel and Kyle, who have been working remotely for their entire careers, if they had any tips, any things that they've learned over the years from working remotely that they wish they'd known when they first started out.
I feel like for me, the biggest thing I would say is posture when you're sitting for long periods of time is definitely a lot more important than you want to think that it is when you're younger. I've definitely had some issues with my back that have come about because of working, and I don't know if we'll get in trouble for saying this, but I had an Aeron chair for probably 10 years, and that really didn't help my back. And people always act like that's kind of the greatest chair you can ever have.
What's an Aeron chair? Is that the one made by that company that's like ridiculous expensive? What's it called?
Yeah, is it, I want to say Herman Miller.
Herman Miller.
I think that's correct. But so it's the one where it's basically like a plastic frame, or I don't know if it's plastic, but like a polymer frame, and then it's basically like a mesh type material.
Right. I've got the kind of knockoff equivalent in my home. That's what I sit in. Yeah.
But at least maybe I didn't sit in it well, or like maybe I just needed better posture, but it really didn't support my back like I wanted. And so I've had some back issues that come about because of that.
Interesting.
So I would definitely say if you're just getting started working from home, be careful about that, because you don't want to sacrifice your health for the sake of being able to work from home.
Totally. Yeah. And like stand-up desks are super trendy right now. And I'm getting sucked into that. I might end up getting one.
I don't have a stand-up desk, even though I would like to have one, but I have kind of made one to where I kind of like stack little shelving units on top of each other on top of my desk so that I can stand up. And that's actually been really interesting. I feel like for me, it's almost like you get like a second wind when you're starting to stand up, because it's almost like now you're in a different environment, even though you're in the same room, and you feel different. So you kind of have like another burst of creativity or creative energy or whatever.
Yep. That's an awesome answer that I wasn't expecting at all. Totally outside of the box there. That's really cool. How about you, Carl? Any thoughts? Any tips you've picked up along the last few years that you think you'll never go back to the way you used to do things?
Basically, just the work ethic, I think, because sometimes when you're working, especially from home, you're kind of getting confused sometimes that you're on vacation or not, or you have to balance it as well, because while starting out, it's fun, and you can do what you want, but then work piles up because most of the things aren't getting done, so you have to control it, and you need to work on stuff at this particular hour, and you need to build your schedule while at home, because it's not easy, especially when starting out, because you kind of aren't sure where things end or where things start.
Definitely. Yes, having a really clear structure around what your workday looks like, and kind of building the habits around kind of when you begin, when you stop, and all that kind of stuff. Is that what you mean?
Yeah. Yep, that's what I mean.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I think just to kind of build on that a little bit, one thing that I found interesting, that at least for me, I never saw myself as a type of person that wanted to lock myself into a schedule on a calendar. I wanted to, I like the freedom of, especially from working from home. I'm like, I'm working from home. I'm not in an office. I can kind of schedule myself and I can be efficient. But then I kind of found out early on that really wasn't the case. And so I've actually found myself in, especially the past 4 or 5 years, really setting aside time to plan out my calendar for the week, and really sitting down and saying, okay, I've got this, I have these errands I need to run this week. I have these appointments this week. I have these meetings, whatever, like that kind of stuff that's work I can put on my calendar for sure. But then even personal life, I try to set aside time, not even necessarily saying, I'm going to eat dinner from this time to this time. I'm not going that kind of crazy with it, but it's more of, I know that I've got to get work done in a certain time frame. And so within that time frame, I can kind of figure out how I'm going to work my schedule around it. And then the schedule outside of the work, it's still nice to kind of keep some form of structure just so that I don't fall into total chaos, I guess, because it's kind of a weird situation where if you go from being very structured in your calendar for part of the day and then the rest of it is not scheduled at all, at least for me, I feel like I end up wasting a lot of time, and I feel like my free time got away from me and I didn't get to enjoy it as much as I would have liked. So even though it feels weird to schedule your free fun time, I feel like it's helped me to appreciate it more and get more out of it.
That's true. I do schedule my day. Not really that much, but just the work part. It's not, per hour, like this is when I eat, this is when I go to the bathroom or whatever. It's just the work. It's like, okay, so I can do this maybe around at this time, this part at this time. So it's just something like that, because I've tried before that I didn't have a schedule where I go nuts because the time is running out and you have a deadline to pass it in the day, and I just kept on, doing nothing, because, when you're at home, you feel so relaxed. And because of that, it causes so much problems. So that's why I think that you need to have a structured schedule, even just a bit, not very, precise, but just the basics.
Yep, I completely agree. Are there any tools you guys use to manage your stuff other than all the tools we use, like in work? Obviously as a team, we collaborate using all the kind of software that we choose to use as a team. But I wonder, is there anything you guys use personally that like helps you stay organized and stuff? Like whether that's like a written, like literally a handwritten calendar, like a notebook, or, some other kind of thing that you keep track of your to-do lists and things like that?
For me, like as much as I try to stay organized with work, there is a level of organization to my personal life that is kind of a step down, but not like a giant step down. So for me and my wife together, we both use iPhones and Macs and like we're in the Apple ecosystem completely. So for both of us, we have like a shared calendar in iCal. We have a shared like in the actual reminders app, you can have a shared reminder so that when Apple pings you on your phone saying this is a reminder, it can go to multiple people. So we'll do stuff like that to kind of help remember stuff. So like at any given time, my wife will say, remind me, we need to, go do whatever later today before a certain time. And so at any time, I can make a reminder, or I can tell her, hey, remind me to do this. She can set the reminder, but whoever sets it, it goes to both of our phones so that we remember it. So we both use that. And then I've also been an Evernote user ever since I think like 2008 or something, when they first came out of beta. It's just been like a giant brain dump where, if it's a website that I need to remember, if it's any kind of, account information, whatever, I kind of dump it all into Evernote. And that way we can search that and kind of go back and find things a lot.
Nice. So that's kind of like your storage place. It's just where every piece of information you may need access to in the future is just kind of all dumped in there. Yeah, I like that.
For me personally, I'm not really a very organized person. So yeah, I just grab something to write on and I just write it over there, like physically writing or maybe notepad. Most of the time for schedules, I'm using my phone's alarm clock. Just schedule it on that day. What's it about? What time does it? When time I need to do it. So yeah, but most of the info or the information that I need is all in my phone, because I go everywhere with my phone. So when I need something, it's already in my phone. So but one of the most important applications that I do have is Slack and Skype and Google Hangouts and whatever, because those are my connection to work. And if I'm not using my laptop, I do still have access to our conversation when I need it.
Yeah, totally. Cool, that's it for today. Thanks very much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, we would love it if you would share it with one other person that you think would also enjoy it. As ever, more information can be found at wfhpodcast.com, and we'll see you very soon.